Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Red Room. Tonight is a special topic that is a synthesis of many things, and it's important to me as a woman, as a therapist, as a friend, and I am recording this on in November that preps us for our Thanksgiving holidays, our Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all the different holidays. Usually, all of us are celebrating something memorable and meaningful to us in November and December. And I wanted to talk about making those magic moments. Sometimes we do all this work for our holidays and we get everything set up. It looks nice. The food is wonderful. The family is the family that we love. And there's some little something or other that we feel like we could add, but we're not sure what it is. Sometimes it feels like there's something missing. Sometimes it's just that it didn't quite get to the level of love and fun that you wanted. And there are ways to ensure that. It usually takes somebody being aware. I know that you've probably been in those old-fashioned situations I'll never forget when I was young, where everybody was in the same room sitting on a sofa or on a chair, and it was just sitting in the same room talking about the things that we usually talked about, or the adults usually talked about, or being around the wonderful table for the holiday feast, the holiday dinner, and everyone talking mostly about the things that they usually talked about. And the only thing that made it really special was the special decor and the special wonderful food that was prepared. And then maybe the conversation was around the gifts or the food. And if we pay attention, there are some simple things that we can do to add that little sparkle, those little magic moments. And the magic moments really are just under one heading, as far as I'm concerned. It's under the heading of love. Love for ourselves, our lives, our family members, uh, whatever it is that's good in the world and good in the meaning of ourselves and our relationships and our communities. And the expressions of love that we have on holidays, sometimes we elevate them to another level. Sometimes we forget to. Or sometimes it's just the special ones that we usually do. And the traditions are great. And yet, there is a way to add those magical moments. And as a woman, and kind of as a hostess, I feel responsible to ensure that, which means I plan for it, I set it up, or I'm sensitive to what I need to prepare or who I need to prepare to make something stop, kind of like stop in time and pay attention to something. And you all know that when I teach communication, the most important thing to make someone feel as if they're loved is paying attention or listening. And so listening sounds in certain terms not very dynamic, and yet it's one of the ultimate languages of love. So I wanted to share with you these 7 parts that apply to us setting our holidays up to be unusually loving, to make people really feel special, or for them to experience something very special. There are 7 points, and they all have to do with our interaction with people and how we behave with people. Not just, we already know the books, the magazines, the beautiful things that are available to create lovely food, lovely decorations, the environment, the arms in the house where people gather and come together. So here are some ideas. I'll be very interested to hear of your ideas as well, the things that you already do that make your holidays magical. And you may already be doing things and not really realizing how special it is and how impactful it is. So the first one, well, let me just read through the 7 of these. Number 1, model the kind of relationships that you want. Live them yourself. Number 2, provide meaningful roles, which means everybody has their part, and it's a meaningful, special part. You know, like in a wedding, the little ones even are the flower bearers and the ring bearers. 3, spend time together. And that doesn't mean those ones that I was describing where everybody's just sitting on a sofa kind of with their hands folded. Spend time just listening. 5, appreciate and acknowledge. And appreciate and acknowledge in a certain kind of way. Not just thanks or I appreciate that, but more specific than that. 6, maintain or establish traditions. You know how magical those can be. And some of them need to be playful and fun as well as sacred. And number 7, network within the community. Connect with your community. So let's go through these 7 pieces and get some very specific images of how we live those, how we plan those, and place them in our holiday celebrations. So first of all, model the kind of relationships that you would like to have and model for others and for your family. For example, if some people grew up in a family where nobody touched each other, they didn't hug each other, or maybe you grew up in a family where you didn't smile very much, or you didn't sing together, think about how people interact from your history and now in your families, and what it is that you can add to that. And sometimes that means deciding that you're going to hug people when they come in the door. Sometimes when you talk, you just reach over and you touch somebody's shoulder or arm. Sometimes when you model the kind of relationship you want, you stop everything and you look directly in somebody's eyes and welcome them. It's interesting how looking directly at someone, not kind of looking around the room or wondering who's coming in or who's doing what, but even though in the middle of chaos, focusing directly on someone's face and asking them how they are, or sometimes it's just, what would you like to drink this evening? Do you like this, this, or this? By looking them directly and tuning out the rest of the world so that you model paying attention to one person at a time without distraction. So thinking of modeling how you want the relationships to be in your home or in your festivity. If there are people misbehaving, how you want to model some way or another to channel that energy into something that's positive. So, for example, if there's somebody that's bored and kind of at loose ends, or there's a child that's a little too rambunctious, you model the way to handle that in the most fun-loving way. So if there are children, you make sure you have activities that keep their energy focused, and you take that child and sit with them, help them connect with whatever it is, and if you have to go on to something else, then you find someone who can companion the child and instruct them how to do that. Does this sound interesting to you? Do you do this? Do you have any ideas on how you model the relationships that you want? Sometimes you're working side by side in the kitchen, and the way you do that, whether you're just focused on getting stuff done or whether it's a little more relaxed and warm, maybe you have an eggnog that you're sharing and you're visiting and sharing tasks with people rather than feeling like you have to be on task getting things done. It's more like a community spirit and a community gathering. The ways that you treat people yourself, set the tone for your festivity, your home, your occasion. And so think about how you ordinarily treat people and what can you add to it? What do you ordinarily do, or what do you wish you could do more of? And I know that one of the things that I like to do is I like to have people welcomed, and if I'm not there, to make sure somebody is there to welcome them. And I know that one of the things I can improve in also is when I have an occasion or invite people, I would like to have more things prepared in advance, or people taking care of things so that I can focus one-on-one on each of the people and pay full attention, even if it's just for 30 seconds or 60 seconds. Pay full attention, not looking anywhere else, but really engaging that person in an interaction. So that's one of the ways that I would want to role model relationships at a festivity. And there are ways that you can set that up with asking people what they would like to drink, and just taking care of that one person before you go, what would you like? No, I'll ask one, do that. Come back, ask the next, do that. So that I am in a relationship with that one person and giving that one person my complete attention and respect. Makes each person feel so cared for and treasured. So I'm wondering if you have any ideas on how to model the kind of relationships that you want. And that may mean with guests who are friends, guests who are elders, guests who are children or younger people. So it's up to us to live it, to walk it, to use whatever expressiveness we have to show people this is the way we conduct ourselves in my home or in my event or in this occasion. Sometimes if you want to think about that, you remember back when you didn't feel welcome somewhere, what it was somebody did that made you feel like you weren't a part of it, and then decide what you're going to do instead. So that's the first one. Model the relationships you want to create. That can make a moment of loving attention. Number two, provide meaningful roles. And this is a fun one. I love doing this. Provide meaningful roles for each person in the family, ones that are genuinely useful and important to the family's well-being or holiday spirit, or the fun festivities that you set up for the occasions. So everybody has their part. Everybody feels like they contribute and that they're important to the family community. And I love doing that. You know that when somebody asks you for help, if they're a healthy, nice person, they always love it. They say, oh, or they come to you and they say, can I help? Be ready for that. That's providing them a role. I'll never forget having, it was a birthday party, and I had misjudged what it took to get ready for everything, and there was still a task that needed to be done. And I asked for help, and I ended up putting 3 aprons on 3 men, and they were in the kitchen with the utmost hilarity, jolly attitude, and they elevated the whole room to something that I'll never forget. Probably none of us ever will forget it. That those 3 men had aprons on in my kitchen doing something for me. I gave them a role. So that you want to give a role to each person, each child, so that they know what their part is and feel like their part is important, that the whole event wouldn't quite be the same if they weren't there to do their part of it. Sometimes it's easy to do that when you're serving a large meal to a group of people or an extended family, that even the littlest child everyone has something that they can do, and that you think in advance about that. who you're going to ask to do what. And you may arrange it in advance. And so you may, if there are smaller children, you talk to the parents in advance and you ask, your sister to do something, your brother-in-law to do something else, and say, and could Matthew do this? And could Jackie do that? And so that they're expecting their part. So you want to provide a meaningful role. One of the things that I like to do too is sometimes the role comes with a hat, a literal hat. There's a Santa hat, or there's an apron, some kind of costume that represents that role. So think about the fun roles that you can create. Another thing that, in essence, gives each person a role or a sense of being a meaningful part is when you use place cards, and that that person's name is there, and that you could even give them a fun name or the name of a fun role to play. There's somebody that is typically, the maker of the salad, or Santa's elf, whatever it is, to show each person that there's a special place for them. It isn't just a big gathering, but each person is critical to the meaning and the love shared in that family environment. Okay. Number 3, spend time together. Well, we spend time together, don't we? However, not just casually. Spend time together intentionally. Think about the kinds of environments, activities, things that suit the people involved. So spend time together one-on-one and as a family, continuing some familiar family routines while also taking advantage of ways in which new activities such as interests, ideas, perspectives, activities, jobs, schoolwork, and relationships can be focused on, used, morphed for the holidays. So time together, one of the things that I find with our young people now, they are so stimulated with so many things, with video games, with the computer, with TV, and with all the activities that they have in their lives. They get bored very easily and they don't want to just sit around, which means we want something to do. If you do really just want to visit, hang out, have a glass of eggnog or hot chocolate, and just be with people to catch up and have a conversation. One of the simple things that I like to do is I'll have sofas around a coffee table, and I'll have a jigsaw puzzle on the coffee table, a big one, a fun and colorful one, so that people sit around the conversation pit, so to speak, and they may or may not work on the jigsaw puzzle, so that it's something to do while you're interacting and talking. Sometimes it's preparing food. One of the things that we do is we each share a task, because it takes quite a bit to create an apple pie from scratch. You've got to peel and cut up all those apples, especially when you don't want a thin apple pie, you want a thick apple pie or two. And so people sharing the tasks of just sitting and talking and peeling the apples, because it's something that you can do when you're sitting in a group. Something like that, where there's a role provided and it's also an activity. You're doing something together. So some familiar family routines. Sometimes that spending time together is driving in the car together to look at Christmas lights, and that's something that you plan for, and maybe you plan something special before or after. You come home and have a special dessert together. And instead of just going out and seeing the Christmas lights and making dessert together, you decide. You've seen those, there are boxes with little cards in them that are kind of conversation starters. I kid you not. When you use those, somehow or another, the conversation is raised to another level, and it's really fun, even if not everybody wants to participate. So that when you come home, there's something fun to talk about. Maybe you ask people what their favorite thing that they've seen or done for a Christmas tradition or sacred ritual, what it is, whether or not you've done it in your family or your holidays, and have a discussion on when people like to preserve and what they'd like to preserve, and when they'd like to try something new. And of course, at the beginning, people really they weren't thinking about something like that. So be prepared. Have something that you've already researched and have on the tip of your tongue, or some topics on little slips of paper, so that you can guarantee there's an unusual conversation, a new magic moment that happens. Okay, let's see here. I've got some comments here. This person says, this may be a little off topic, but my husband likes to give big, expensive, parenthesis, expensive gifts for Christmas, and my side of the family thinks he is a show-off. He claims that he is just generous, and that is who he honestly is. And to do less would cheat them out of something nice, or be dishonest about how much he wants to help others at holiday time. It's not a big source of conflict between us, but it bothers me more and more each year, especially when we get closer and closer to saying, it's that time of year again. What would you suggest, Heather? Thank you so much. Interesting that you should ask me that question, because I had the same problem, the exact same problem. Because if you've looked at my Facebook page or my curriculum vitae, one of my hobbies is gift giving. I just love giving gifts, and always will. It's something that I collect Christmas gifts or birthday cards or whatever things all year round. So Jack will tell you I've got one of those little plastic filing cabinets, and it's just full of greeting cards. When I find something, oh, this is perfect for Randy, I'll buy it and I'll put it in birthday cards, so that when Randy's birthday comes around, I've got it for him. It usually has a cat that looks like his cat, Bootsy, on it. At any rate, bless my sister. She finally had it. Not in a really angry sense or anything, but feeling guilty and badly, like you're describing for your family, where as I moved away from home and as I was able to have a good job, I always wanted to give my family special gifts because we grew up with very little. And so it would take me a good period of time and money and energy to do this, partly because I didn't have any family around me. I was far away from them. And I would get these gifts that I just loved to give, and send them off beautifully wrapped, so excited to send them. And I didn't always get gifts back, and certainly not the kind of gifts that I sent. And finally one year, my sister spoke to me on the phone and she said, you know, thank you very much for sending the gifts that you send, but frankly, I wish you wouldn't, because it makes us feel guilty, because we really aren't in a position to reciprocate. And so it feels unfair. You know, it feels bad that when you send us something on that order, that we can't return the gift. We can't return in a like manner. And I love the way she told it to me, and obviously I'll never forget it, because that was one of those magical moments, wasn't it? She trusted me enough to be completely honest with me in a loving way, to tell me what they needed in order to feel more loved by me. Because if I expressed my love in that fashion, I wasn't eliciting feelings of love in them. I was creating feelings of guilt in them, the opposite of what my intention was. So there's that part. I also learned not to give people gifts. This is when I was younger, very well intentioned, not very socially adept yet. And like I would see a beautiful print that I loved that I would put on my wall and think about getting that for somebody else until somebody older and wiser reminded me, it's just like, you don't buy something for somebody else's decor. That's their taste. And what are they going to do? If they don't like it and it doesn't suit them, they don't want to put it on their wall. And yet they don't want to insult you in your gift. And so you're putting them in a difficult position. So do you see gift giving that's not commensurate, not discerning with the occasion or the person ends up being the opposite of a loving act. You're, in essence, intruding inappropriately on their life. Let's see. In your opinion, do you think it's a bad idea for a young married couple with a young child to take some time apart if one of them is unhappy? Can it do more harm than good in the long run? This is a different question. Before I treat that question, I want to say one other thing about the gift giving. And this is a philosophical point, or a spiritual point, really. We all want to be loving, unconditionally loving, and generous. And when we give gifts or give of our time, give of whatever it is we have to give, and the other person is not able to give back equally, then it becomes unfair and unbalanced. Where we are giving more, they are giving less. Now, just pure and not even in the sense of how comfortable or uncomfortable the other person would feel. Because I don't know about you, if somebody gives me a gift and I can't make recompense or thanks or benefit them equally from how they have benefited me, you feel indebted. And that's, I think, truly not only perhaps financially or in the physical object, a useful item, or in the mental sense, but it's also a spiritual sense, an emotional sense of indebtedness. And that's always there where you feel like you're not quite somehow comfortable or balanced if you can't reciprocate equally. Otherwise, there's a one up, one down, which doesn't feel good. We all want to be equal. We all want to be equally valued and valuable. So, in essence, you can be making that person, putting that person into a place of spiritual debt. And if you think in the broadest terms, maybe not indebted to you, but indebted to the world, the universe. And if you think about the concept of karma, whatever you give comes back to you. Well, whatever we receive, we need to make recompense for. Just like when we have a job, if we work overtime, we need to be paid for our overtime. Otherwise, it's not a reputable relationship. And it's the same thing emotionally, intellectually, and with gift giving. So I just wanted to make those 3 points about this gift giving because I know it comes from love. I would recommend that you consider what makes the other person really feel loved. Because if you're being too generous, that's making you feel good rather than taking into consideration what it is that makes the other person feel good. Sometimes instead of giving gifts, it may be spending time on the phone. It may be visiting them, spending your money to actually make the trip to see them and spend the time with them. Maybe it's the whole environment, going out to play, on in the, what do you call that? The like the little circus or the amusement park or mini golf or something like that, or going out for food, but not food where they feel like they can't pay their way. So, or taking them so that everybody goes to a comedy club or something, so that there's not a sense of needing to pay back, because then it's a more mutual experience. Does that make sense? Is that speaking to this thought? I'm wondering if your husband is there. Okay, now this next wonderful question. In your opinion, do you think it's a bad idea for a young married couple with a young child to take some time apart if one of them is unhappy? Well, now I'm wondering what you mean in terms of apart, to take some time apart. You mean, like, for example, if the wife is unhappy that she goes and has dinner with friends, or if one of them is unhappy, the two of them go out and have a weekend vacation to get away, and somebody takes care of the child while they're gone. Can it do more harm than good in the long run? So I need some guidance on that. What is your intention, dear? And then number 4 on the making the magic moments in your holidays. Spend time just listening. Now, it's hard to listen if you're in a large group of people. You can do that. And the best way to do it is if there's somebody that you want to really make a magical moment with. Like, for example, if my sister came into town and she hasn't been around much, I would want to take her out for breakfast or for lunch, just the two of us. And I remember, I'll never forget one Christmas, I took my daughter to a little bistro, and she and I sat on a patio in this beautiful Texas evening. It was so warm. It was Christmas Eve. We were actually on the patio, and there were Christmas lights. And it was, we did a wine tasting. We had three little glasses of 6 different kinds of wines that we tasted that evening together after we'd been shopping. But to take the time listening to her and just one-on-one with her was a magical moment I will never forget. I loved it because I took time apart just to pay attention with her. Things like that. Okay, let's see what this person says. As in, spend some time away from each other, i.e. a couple of weeks. I probably want more information about this. A couple of weeks is a long time. And that says to me that to really see if we are still meant to stay together, I don't think you're going to get the answer to your problem by just staying away from each other. In my mind, you need to come see somebody like me. You need to see a marriage counselor if you haven't been doing that, to find out what's going on between the two of you. Because just spending time apart, well, the only data you're going to get is, do you miss each other? If you haven't solved your problems and you're irritated and frustrated with each other, then you're not going to miss each other. You're going to feel a sense of relief, but you're not really going to get the data about whether or not the two of you are a partnership and at one and can be best friends, because you need to clear up the problems that you have in between you before you can know. Does that make sense? I don't want to stay in a marriage where I am unhappy all the time. Of course you don't, dear. None of us does. And if you're unhappy all the time, have you been to see a marriage counselor? Have you worked through some things? You know what the statistics say, that when people are very unhappy and they feel like they want to separate, well, the first thing you do is you do your work, which means you see a therapist and you work on it. When you work on it, 75% of the marriages are fabulous and shouldn't be in a divorce, the ones that are divorced. So if you haven't done your work, then I don't think you know whether or not you can be happy, if that makes sense, dear. And being unhappy could be one of 15 different things when I look at the marriage model of what makes a marriage happy and what makes a marriage good. And it may be an assortment of those things. So if you have a child and if you have a marriage, I would say before you separate or walk away from this or decide that you're just going to always be unhappy, you really want to um, do all the work before, because you've got an investment that's huge. Um, so that would be my response, dear. Now, to continue on with the family making magic moments in your holidays. Number 5, appreciate and acknowledge. And this person who is unhappy in her marriage, or his marriage, um, are you appreciative and acknowledged? Do you get acknowledgement? Does the other person appreciate you? And if those basic things aren't there, then you're lacking a basic skill that is required to keep you happy. Her. Thank you. So watch for moments when you feel and can express genuine affection, respect, and appreciation for other family members, what they do. Appreciate and acknowledge each person's new areas of interest, their skills, their strengths, their accomplishments, as well as the positive aspects such as their passion, their vitality, their humor, their deepening intellectual thought. All of those things, that's one of the things as a therapist I'm pretty good at. I mirror people's goodness and greatness. And I find so often people thank me because there's nobody in their life that has that pays the attention to honor and mirror your appreciation for other people's goodness and greatness. Do you do that? We all need that, like a vitamin pill or like a good meal every day. We need to receive appreciation, approval, admiration, understanding, curiosity from the people who love us. And so do you do that with the ones that you love? And so during the holidays, when there's a dinner and there's a young person at the table and they're doing something new, and you stop the conversation and say, I heard that you got third chair UIL. Would you tell us about that? Or do you go around the table at one time or another, or around the room when you're visiting, and ask people to share the new and good thing that they learned this year? Or to, on Thanksgiving, talk about what they're thankful for, not just world peace, but what they're thankful for in their family and what's happened during the year, and what's important to them in the relationships that they have with the family members or the family traditions. Okay, let's see. She says, my husband has seen the questions that I've been asking and has one of his own. Oh, good. You're both here. Bravo. I love that. I had a couple like that last week, and they did some remarkable work. Okay, how do you get back to basic in a marriage? It seems like we don't have that much to talk about, and I try to, but it doesn't seem to do any good. Absolutely, dears. Do you know the 2 requirements for a great marriage? Number 1, you've got to be best friends. Number 2, you've got to be romantic. And those 2 things don't just come out of the woodwork. Best friends means you talk to each other all the time. And if you haven't got anything new to talk about, well, then that says that you're pretty much both in a rut. And if you've got a small child, that means you've probably been spending a lot of time taking care of the child, and then there's no adult conversation, and that's a rut. And so best friends and romance. And if your best friendship is faltering, then the romantic feelings are not going to be alive and well. So you know what it takes to keep those 2 things alive and well: novelty and arousal. Novelty means always something new. That means that you're always doing something new, you're active, you're alive, you're learning something new. Both of you. If we're not doing something new every day, we're not really engaged with life. Maybe we're depressed and just putting one foot in front of the other. Well, that is not a good lifestyle design. That's not quality of life. Which brings me to what I'm going to do over the next 6 weeks. I have 6 different areas of life that we need to enrich. And for the next 6 weeks, I'll be focusing. Last week, actually, I focused on the first one, which is physical. And then over the next 6 weeks, I'll be focusing on the next 5, and then the last one will be making sure that you have goals set to have a big picture view of a healthy, happy lifestyle. So if you too don't know how to do novelty, which is something new, and arousal, which means not only sexual arousal, but it's excitement. It's what we call eustress. It's doing something that gets your juices flowing, something that gets your pulse pounding, something that gets your smile on, something that makes your eyes sparkle. If you're not engaged with something like that, then there's a whole lot missing in your lifestyle. It's not about your relationship, dears. It's about your lifestyle. And so, it may be as easy as you join a tennis club or play golf, or you start trading childcare with another couple and just go out for a nice dinner together and do what I call the daily dialogue. And if you want the daily dialogue, that's something that I recommend every couple who needs to find new connection, that you do it every day. It's called daily. Ask me. Email me. I see, I don't know who you are. I can't, but if you email me, dears, and ask me for the daily dialogue, I'll send you that handout and a little description of just 5 things that you talk about every day. And one of them guarantees novelty and arousal. It's wishes, hopes, and dreams. What are some of the wishes, hopes, and dreams that you have, or that you had before, or that you don't know but you want to explore? And there are always ways to do that. Just ask me for my passion list. It's single-spaced, 8 pages long. You're missing some things, and you deserve to have them. And I would say you need to build those into your lifestyle and your home before you give up on your relationship, dears. So ask me. Let's see. We don't have that much time to spend together because we work different hours, and it has caused us to grow apart. There you go. You can't be best friends and romantic partners if you can't have some time together. And that means that if you've got limited time, while you're apart, you need to be focusing very carefully and in partnership, in teamwork, on when you do get an hour together or 3 hours together. It's something that's 5-star, not just kind of like we're tired high. That's the way adults do it. Adults plan and make darn sure that when they have an opportunity, they get adult fun, which means it's high quality. It's not just kind of hanging out, if you know what I mean. If we ever do get to do anything together, I, the wife, has to plan it, and it's boring. Whoa. So if it's boring, then you must be making boring plans, my dear. Yes, I'll acknowledge that. Usually in a marriage, one person or another is better at planning events. And that's the good news and the bad news. We want to understand that and value it and say, this is our style. I'm the one, or he or she is the one, that's better at planning. That's the good news and the bad news. The bad news is I have to plan it. The good news is I get to plan it, which means I can plan it any way I want. And if I'm boring at planning, I'm going to get a boring thing. If I decide that I'm going to get creative with my planning, then I can get as creative as I want, and my spouse is going to be thrilled with me. and I'm not going to be bored. So do you see that? I'm sorry to be so blunt with you, but sounds to me like the two of you need better recipes for having fun. And there are several sources for those. Fabulous instant sources. So first of all, I want you to Google Gregory Godek. He has a book, and it's such a great book. I have one on the bookshelf here, if I can see it right away. And I have one on the bookshelf in my private practice office. And it is a recipe book for romance. Here it is, right here. Right here. See that? 1,001 ways to be romantic. 1,001. They're little recipes. You know, there may be 3 or 4 recipes. There are 2, 4, 5 right there. I just opened this and it just happens to have right there, Merry Christmas. Number 588, romantic way. So this is for a Merry Christmas. Now get this, I'll just read this aloud to you for making a special Merry Christmas so that it's not boring. A gift a day for the 12 days of Christmas. Wouldn't that be fun? Never forget this Christmas. Or go all out on the first day of Christmas. My true love gave to me a red rose in a bud vase. Second day, 2 bottles of champagne, 3 French kisses, 4 nights of dancing, 5 golden rings, 6 bubble baths, 7 movie passes, 8 Beanie Babies, 9 romance coupons for back rubs, 10 shares of Microsoft stock, 11 heart-shaped balloons, 12 CDs by the Beatles. Voila, not boring. Some Christmas tree ornament ideas. Create a garland of $1 bills taped together. Take the CD discs out of their cases and hang them on the tree as shining ornaments. Have a relevant holiday-oriented comic strip laminated and hang it on the tree. Have a favorite poem or quote written in calligraphy and turn it into an inspirational ornament. One woman came to her marriage with a vast collection of very special Christmas tree ornaments. Her husband jumped on the bandwagon, and they now have a ritual search for this year's special ornament. And, you know, if it were my husband, who loves to buy me gifts, thank you God for Jack, we would go on a search for this year's Christmas ornament. So it would be lunch somewhere at one of our favorite Italian restaurants. It would be in the mall where we're going to decide not to just buy an ornament for $1.99, but we might actually spend $7 to $15 on an ornament, and we find it together. But part of it is we're walking together, we're enjoying the lights together, we're talking together, we're spending time together. We just love going on errands together because it feels like a little vacation when we're in the car together. Let's see here. It's not just the fun outings. When you make love once every 2 to 4 months, that adds up to, and when we finally do it, it feels cold and repetitious. So if you're close to what we call sexual anorexics, if that's the case, and that's your responsibility, dear hearts. Making love is the ultimate rejuvenation, and if you're not taking responsibility to make that special, then you've got to be tired, depleted, discouraged, disconnected, feeling a terrible lack of intimacy and love and relaxation. It doesn't just happen. And that was my point earlier with adult fun. If you want to make love rather than just fit sex in somewhere, you plan it, you decide what you're going to wear, going to have a nice beverage, a little dinner before or snacks before and dinner afterwards. You're going to plan it, and you're going to make darn sure you get it, and you're going to make darn sure you give something that the other person will feel at your feet about. That's what adults do. We take responsibility and we make it happen with verve, enthusiasm, and energy. Sometimes you don't have much of it, But if you don't plan it, it won't happen. You know, there's that old-fashioned belief about serendipity and um, just whenever you're in the mood. Well, when you get to this point of being tired, overworked with a small child, you don't have the energy for just that random fun. That's just when you're in love. Okay, let's see here. He couldn't plan anything if his life depended on it. Well, maybe, maybe not. He's probably just as upset or frustrated or tired as you are. And both of you, it sounds like, are discouraged and kind of like ground down. Um, you know, when that happens, one of the fastest um, things to give yourself a shot in the arm is to date another couple that has fun, great sense of humor, and great energy. Being around other people lifts us. And it sounds to me like going out with another couple that laughs a lot and going to a comedy club or a goofy movie would be something that you really do need. That's not hard to plan. So is it true, if the husband is listening as well, is it true that if your life depended on it, you couldn't plan anything or set something up? Sometimes guys don't do that because the few times they've tried, they didn't get appreciation or approval and they got disapproval. You know, guys need approval. They need us to accept them as they are. And if he's not good at planning things, that's a skill that we can build. But if he doesn't get encouragement, it's a place where he's going to be walking on eggshells. So, husband, tell me what's going on there, dear. Okay, number 6 on the magic moments in your holidays is maintain or establish traditions, including family, cultural, and or religious rituals. Traditions. Sometimes it's as easy as saying grace, and the way you lift it to the next level is you have everybody hold hands. The way you lift it to the next level is the grandchild or the child that's turned 6. That's when it's there. They know that the Christmas or the Thanksgiving, when they are 6 years old, that they say the grace for the entire family dinner. And to see, you just create a ritual like that, and there you give him or her the role. You give the parents role of preparing them with saying grace, and the whole family then stops. And you know, sometimes there's not a dry eye around the table when you hear that little voice saying something so sweet and pure. So family rituals. I know one of our rituals is on my handout. It's and these are from our house. The stockings. That's the first thing Christmas morning. You know, whenever we get to the presents, that's a whole nother thing. But the stockings are the first thing. And the stockings are a little more casual, but it's a magical kind of thing. Digging your hand in your stocking and finding what's there. So that's one of our rituals that I would never, ever not do. It's even more important to me, I think, than the gift giving. So what are your family rituals, or what are the rituals that you used to have or you've heard about that you would like to incorporate? And then, of course, number 7, the last one, and this is powerful. Some of us forget about it. Some of us do it, but not in the way that's the best. It's network within the community, as well as within schools, your family or other families, your religious organizations, social services, to identify resources that can provide positive adult and peer relationships, guidance, training, activities for your family members, or contributions to making a difference in the world. Yes, some people go to a food pantry or a kitchen where food is provided. Some people get gifts and put them on an angel tree or deliver them to a place where they're given to families that need assistance. I know a couple of guys that what they do is there's a place where the gifts are all delivered, and then there's gift wrap. It takes a lot of time to do the gift wrapping, as you guys know. But these guys go on their lunch hour and they wrap presents for kids. And it's one of their traditions that they do. So where in the community can you connect, maybe more than one place, that's going to be heartwarming, not just putting money in the Salvation bucket, the Salvation Army bucket, but maybe if you have a child that's really interested in, firemen, you take that child to the fire station and give the fireman hot chocolate or something that's personal, between you and another human being, between your child and another human being. Your child may be saying, this year I'm getting new toys or games or whatever, and this year I'm ready to give this one. And that you take it to a place where the child actually goes with you and the people receive it and thank the child. I haven't heard from the couple. Would you please tell me, husband, is that true that you can't plan anything if your life depended on it? Or is it that you tried some things and it didn't work? And tell me for what reason. Let me know, because I want to respond to that, okay? Do any of you have special rituals or traditions or ways that you network within the community for the holidays to make those magical moments that are about love, that are about personal connection, about really paying attention? Do you have some of those? I'd love to hear. Oh, look, he responded, yes. Yes, I'm not the best planner. And usually, you know what it takes, dear? It takes practice, which means I think, I'm not sure about this, but I think that if you decided to plan something and you asked your wife what it is that she would like, it may not be a real big deal. Ask her the kind of thing that she would like you to plan and set up. Now, it's so much easier to do it if she gives you some clues so that you know you can get a win. And dear the wife, we want you to set him up so that he does good. He does really good. Because if he does good, he gets a real win, and you give him not from 0 to 10, not a 2, but you give him an 8, 9, or 10, he's going to say, oh, I can do this. I could do this again. You know that. So help him, set him up, kind of give him some consultation. If she gives me ideas, it's just like her planning it. Really? Is that so? Just one idea? Like, for example, she says, I'd like you to take me out in the town that Friday night, and I can be ready at this time. Then it's up to you whether you take her to a comedy club, the symphony, or to hear some music, or to a movie, or to go to dinner by a lake, go for a drive somewhere far off to just a little kind of a dive that's in another community. I don't know. It's like, if she gives you a date, you can do that. Or are you in more trouble than that? It's hard for me to tell. I'd love to chat with you. If you'd like to give me a phone call, I'd love to chat with you and get more personal and more specific on what you need, my dears. Because it sounds to me like you still love each other, and you're in a place that most of us get at one point or another, where your relationship needs to go to the next level. You need to revitalize it and, in essence, grow it up to the next level of quality. Do you think that might be true? Because when you're married and you have a child, you have a huge investment. And rather than walking away, I will want you to try to reinvent it, rather than to separate, to put your energy to doing something that you've never done before, something wild and crazy or adventurous or intense or somewhere you've never thought of going before. And believe me, if you go to Gregory Godek's website, he will give you dozens of ideas. Okay, let's see here. I'm not the best planner. I'm not a planner at all. She wants me to plan it on my own. If she gives me ideas, it's just like her planning it. Yes, I want to reinvent it. That's what we want to do. Oh, sweethearts, thank you so much. You know, when you want to reinvent your marriage, dears, if you still love each other, but it's just that your relationship isn't good enough anymore, no sweat. I do that with people all the time. If you really want this marriage and you still love each other, but you're not willing to live with this low quality, we can do that. That's easy. It's if you don't like each other and if you're hateful with each other, then that's a hard one. But if you want it, that's just new skills. And that's what those of us who are older than you know how to teach you or show you. We love each other, but not in a romantic way. Well, yeah, because if you've gotten so far apart, if you don't do romantic things together, if you don't have that novelty and arousal, then you're not going to feel romantic. Romance happens, I think of it as God's training wheels. In the beginning of a relationship, that luscious, what Jack calls the love cocktail in the brain that happens when we first get together, and it lasts for a while. But after a while, it dwindles away, and romance just doesn't happen. Romance is created by us. We are the creators, the co-creators of romance. And if we don't know how to do that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your parents probably were clueless about it, most of them in the previous generations are or were, then how would you know? I, the husband, want it, but she doesn't. She is tired of trying to fix things. She is almost to her breaking point. And that may mean because you haven't come towards her with your half. If she's to her breaking point, she needs your love, she needs help, she needs a rest, she needs way more than a bubble bath. And you may not have the skills or the ideas of knowing what to do. She's probably the one that wants to just get away. And wife, can you tell me, do you want to get away because you're just exhausted and just tired of trying to do everything? Would you be able to let him take on something and add some fun things to your life? Would you be willing to go out on a date with him? Tell me, would you be willing? If he took you out on a date, would you be willing to go? Would you be willing to see if you can have some fun together? Usually it's the case. Tell me. Yes, she's tired. And see, how did I know that? I don't even know who you are. It's very common. It's not unusual. It's very natural. In a home with a husband, a wife, and a small child, and if you've got both working and your schedules are different, usually the wife knows more about and has more skills appropriate to doing everything around the house and with the children. And so, yes, it's usually the case that the wife is exhausted and tired, and she just doesn't have the energy to create that novelty and arousal anymore. It's oftentimes also men have more, I love testosterone. It's more energetic, more assertive. Like little boys and girls. The little boys are the ones that are just going all over the place, and the little girls are a little quieter. It's different energy that we have. So it sounds to me like you, the husband, she needs your strength, and she needs your sense of humor and your support. She had to step away for a minute. Thank you for listening, sir. There are 1,000 things you can do, and just one or two that you can start with. And you want to choose what you know your sweetie is going to be enthusiastic about. Some kind of novelty and arousal, something new, and something. Arousal, in my mind, means fun, joy, delight, sparkle in the eye, enthusiasm. Bottom line, if you can get laughs. And sometimes, if you don't have what it takes, it just means finding a really hilarious movie to just get some laughs and some what Jack and I called a vacation attitude for a few minutes. At any rate, dear hearts, um, our time is up for the Red Room tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in with me tonight. And I hope my description of making magic moments in your holidays has given you some new ideas. And also thanks so much. Thanks to those of you who asked me questions this evening. As always, um, your questions are so heartfelt and they're so meaningful. What you're asking for is so critically important. Um, I'm there for you, and if I can help you in any other way, email me, give me a call, because there's so much more. All you need to do is ask, and if you don't ask, you'll never know what you might have gotten. So thank you so much, dears, and bless your marriages and your families, and I trust that this evening has given you some great ideas for making more magical moments in your holidays, because it's based on paying attention, connections with other people, and saying I love you in any of the languages that are the simplest, most direct, and most personal. So, good night, dear hearts. I'll be back here in the Red Room, same time next week. Oh, you're most welcome. You'll be calling me tomorrow. I'll look forward to hearing from you, dear. Good night, and thank you so much.